Thank you all for coming tonight. This will be the first of 3 debates that we're going to do. We've got the one here tonight. Next Thursday we'll be down in Hartselle, and then the following Thursday we'll be in Fairplay. I want to thank a couple of people, Richard over here, Richard Sousey, for arranging everything here and making sure we had chairs and places to sit, and Brian and MJ for helping getting everything set up and for bringing this in case I couldn't talk loud enough. The rules are pretty simple. We're going to start with the commissioners, then JD 11. Would that be okay if we do them second this time, and then we'll do House District last? The way we're going to do it, they're going to have 6 questions. The questions were submitted by members of the Central Committee, and a couple were submitted by Republican women, and we have a pretty good group. We drew 6. Brian helped me draw 6 out of the entire group, so nobody really knew which questions were going to be asked tonight. We're going to start, and we're going to alternate candidates on answering the questions. So the first candidate would get 90 seconds to answer the question. Then they'll have 60 seconds for a rebuttal from the other candidate, and then 30 seconds for a rebuttal from the first candidate. Then we'll switch who goes first. We'll do that for the 6 questions, and then at the end of it, we're going to give each candidate 5 minutes to kind of summarize, things they should have said but didn't, things that may not have been understood properly, or whatever they can do. But they'll have 5 minutes to talk at the end. That's about all. I think, being that this is a Republican event, and we do have a flag over in the corner, I think we should all stand and do a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, in that, well, we've got JD 11 is contested, HD 60 is contested. Our Commissioner District 1, we have 2 candidates, and Commissioner District 2, we only have 1 candidate. And it seems like I would like everybody to have a chance to debate. I invited Dick to come up and spend 5 minutes debating with himself in front of all of us. So,
way to go, Dick. Right, Dick. You get confused.
Thank you. I will be brief because I think we're here to hear the candidates in the contested elections. And I thought what I would try to do tonight in a very short period of time is help people understand a little bit about our finances and how we do things. There was a headline in the Flume some weeks ago, maybe months ago, that we spend more than we take in. In a literal sense, that is true. However, what does not show in that article plainly and clearly is that, for example, we spent $1.2 million in road and bridge for equipment this year. That's what we budgeted. But we received the money in 2011. So I went on to 2011's books. So you got revenue in 2011, expenses in 2012. So I asked our finance department to put something together. I'm going to take it over there. I'm not going to try to explain it here. It wouldn't work anyway. But those of you who are concerned about the budget, I'll be here over there and able to answer your questions and show you what's going on. You can look at about $600,000. 300,000 from the capital fund is going into the new building. 350,000 that shows as an expense is not spent. It's just placed in the expense column because it's money that's coming in and there's not been a decision of what to spend it on, if anything. Then I'd like to turn to, very quickly, to the new Human Services building. We call it that because they're getting, from the state, we're getting $900,000 to pay for the building. The building now will cost $1.5 million. It went up a little bit as a result of a meeting last week. We decided that it would be good money to invest in a basement. That raised the price, but what it did do at the same time was give us room to expand. So that was added. Again, $900,000 comes from the state of Colorado. And I've got more where the other money comes from. want to talk a little bit about lease purchase. Lease purchase is what we call monies that we get from banks. We're able to borrow at less than 3%. I have a schedule here of the debts that are owed, or sums that are owed, and for each place, including the jail. So this is a good thing to come take a look at if you're curious. But right now, the way it works out in 2016, there's a zero balance. In 2015, the jail is paid off. Road and Bridge ends its debts in 2015. We have it scheduled. We know what it's going to cost us. It's going to cost us, I'd say on average, $1.5 million a year to satisfy this debt service. Our revenue is 27 million. That's roughly, it is less than 6% of our total revenue. Those of you who have mortgages know that your loan officer wants you to make your payment not to exceed at least 25% of your gross income. So we are managing this. We are cash flowing. I brought the drawing of the new comm center along with an idea piece about what could be a new county building to replace the annex. It's not funded. It's not something we're going to do at this time, but we decided that we'd do our long-range planning in such a way that one building will fit with another, rather than trying to do it separately. You end up with a mess. So if you want to see that, it's over there to look at it. I guess the thing I want to say is thank you to everyone who supported me. And thank you to the people that have called me and helped me be a better commissioner for the people. I have a sense of pride about what I've done. I feel that when I go over to South Park, I look around, I see a project here or a project there, something that's been done and I had a hand in it. It feels pretty good. So I'm enjoying this job and I want to keep doing it. So thank you very much.
Okay, the two commissioner candidates, if you care to come up and take a seat. You want to go first on the first one, Gary? Okay.
We're each going to get 3.
Yeah, you're each going to get 3, so. Okay, the first question.
You can't see one of the candidates. Move forward. There you go.
When he stood up, you'd be able to see. Okay, first question. Yeah, well, you know, what 3 critical skills should any commissioner possess to be effective?
First thing is being able to communicate. One of the most difficult things to do in a position of management is being able to communicate not only with your fellow managers, but communicate with people that you work with, people you work for. And the people I work for are people out here, the voters. They are the people I work for. One of the things I'm going to do to communicate, and I said this at the very beginning when I went through the caucuses, is I am going to take and have town hall meetings in every precinct every quarter. I refined that a little bit over time. And number 1, I will spend one Friday in each precinct each quarter, so that every precinct will be able to see me and talk to me directly. The second thing we have to have is the ability to manage ourselves and the county system to bring up solutions. And the third thing we need to have to be communicating properly is the people to believe us and to be honest in all that we do. I'm out of time. Thank you.
Yeah, the three main things I think a county commissioner's skill should have is number 1, a history and a successful career in budget management. One of the largest tasks of this job is managing that $27 million budget. And if you have no experience in that, it's very easy to let the $50,000, the $100,000 things get added onto those, and it bumps the budget up significantly. The second thing, as Gary mentioned, is communication. Communication is key. I plan on having a weekly web update to let everybody know what went on in the county that week, what decisions were made, why they were made, and what the upcoming decisions are. And the third thing is leadership, and that may be one of the most important, is ability to have people to stay your course that you're going to.
One of the things I'd like to mention, I have been the treasurer of the Hospice of St. John, which means I've had to deal with government agencies for a while. And if you want to deal with a government agency, deal with Medicare and Health and Human Services. It's no fun. And being able to work with the other commissioners as a group is important. You're a team. You're like a board of directors. And thank you.
I want to say to the candidates and everybody else that's going to be coming up, when the yellow goes up, you don't have to shut up. You can, logically end your sentence.
Although, thank you for stopping.
Yeah.
Thank you, June.
Okay. Looks like Gary starts this one.
I just started.
Well, Gary started the last one.
Don't ask.
Yeah, that's right. It's an odd number. Okay. How would you help to increase business opportunities in Park County?
That's a good question. One of the gifts that I had running for this was that I didn't get on the assembly. I had to, I had to petition on. So that forced me to go out and actually meet the community and actually find out what concerns they had. And I went up and down the 285 corridor and to most of the businesses. And the input I got from them, a lot of them anyway, was it was difficult to do business it would be easier to do business in Park County if some restrictions were changed. And they weren't, because it was so impromptu, they didn't have the answers to it. But what I'm going to do is conduct a forum, and maybe it'll be on a quarterly basis, I'm not sure at this point. But to actually get those answers from the business owners, it would be irresponsible of me just to start changing some of the things that I thought businesses would need without actually getting feedback from them. So I'm going to go out to the business community, ask them what they would like to see changed, and if it's possible, we'll get that changed, increase their profits, and increase some of the revenues for Park County, and potentially, increase some new businesses for starting. That's all I got.
One of the things that I advocated at the Assembly, I'd like to repeat here, is to set up a community, try to get a community college built in Park County that specializes in things that are unique to Park County. Things like forestry, land management, water management. That'll create jobs and other businesses to support the community college. I'd also like to do what I did in Denver when I was part of the economic development team of the Chamber of Commerce, and that is set a group together, develop a video, to send out to businesses that have had their tax abatements rejected by other counties, other states, and say, hey, come to Park County. We have a good quality of life. We have a highly educated workforce. We have 2 of the top 15% school districts in the state. And number 3, your people are going to love living here because it's a great place to live. That's what we have to emphasize. We have to emphasize that we have assets in this county that make us unique, and the centrality of the county is also really important. Thank you.
I think one thing we could probably focus a little stronger on is more advertising electronically. I know there's been some efforts on some of the Chamber of Commerce to put together a Park County kind of attraction site, and I think that will help some of the businesses too. I think in the world of electronic communications now, we could put a stronger effort in there and advertise our county more effectively and efficiently using that type of system.
What are some of the expenditures that are required of the county by state and federal regulation and statute? And do you have any idea of relative magnitude?
In order to be a county, we have to have a sheriff who has to have a jail. So a jail costs money. That's number one. We have to maintain the roads so that we can feed into the system. We have to have, and I'm not 100% sure about this, but I believe we also have to have sub-agencies, if you will, of what the state government has. So if they have health and human services, we have to have health and human services. Road and bridge is an offshoot of CDOT. We have to maintain that. We have to maintain the anything that has to do with human services, such as senior citizens. We have to maintain those. I'm not sure whether they're by statute or federal or state, but I think it's something the citizens expect. And I couldn't tell you what this federal mandate outside of the EPA, which I won't touch at all. And with that, I'll stop my going on from there. Thank you.
The requirements for what the state and federal requirements are for the county, I have no idea. But I've worked in a number of different industries that require compliance for different things. I've worked under the FDA, food manufacturing, good GMP, which have very, very strict compliances, and we've been able to meet them all the time with typically A grades on all those. So I'm sure when elected to this position, I'll learn about all the requirements for the county, and we'll be in compliance for sure with that. That's all I have.
I'm not going to add anything.
Yeah, we don't make you talk, so now you're going to get back up here. Do you believe major cuts in county expenses are needed?
That's a good question. I think currently the way the budget's listed, and if it's correct the way it's published right now, that if we trended our current spending and our revenue continued to trend the same way, we'd be broke in 2015. That's the way the budget looks right now. So we either need to either increase the revenue, which I don't see a large increase coming, or we need to adjust the spending. I think the spending can be addressed in many ways, being a bit more creative, finding alternate solutions to the same problem. So I definitely believe that there are going to need to be some cuts in the spending of the budget. There's no doubt about that. That's all I have.
Unfortunately, our revenue stream is shrinking. Whether we like it or not, one of our major sources of revenue are highway user tax funds. And that is going down every year because our vehicles are getting better mileage and we get less percentage. As the mileage goes higher, our percentage goes lower. I am opposed to new taxes. I can't emphasize that enough. But it means we have to be more efficient in everything we do. And I got to give today's commissioners a lot of credit, because in spite of this economic turndown, they've been able to maintain a pretty darn good quality of services here in the county. And in the first quarter of 2015, we're going to get a windfall of $600,000 when the jail is paid off. And unless Fred wants a bigger jail, we'll be very happy where we are. Thank you all very much.
Gary mentioned the highway fund is going down, but it doesn't really affect the county budget as such, in that it only pays for the road and bridge. The rest of the departments all rely on mostly taxes. So I think using the money more efficiently is the way to go. Is to find all the little hidden gems in the budgets that aren't required right now to still operate the same way. Thank you.
land use regulations were modified to limit the number of horses allowed in residential areas. Seems to be a big issue over here. How do you feel about that, and what impact on property values would you see?
The current regulation, I believe, is 2 horses for every property. I believe that depending upon what, and I use Colorado State University for this, how many horses can be supported per acre. And if it's 4 horses and you have 10 acres, and it's 1 horse per acre, then you can have 10 horses. As long as you maintain and keep it clean and don't destroy the property. I think if you allowed people to have more horses on their property, and I'm not saying have 100 head of horses on your property, but maybe instead of having 2, maybe you have 6 or 7. I think you have the good potential of increasing the value, and that's important because a lot of people won't buy a piece of property with 7 or 8 acres if they can only have 2 horses when they have 4 of their own. So I believe that land use should be allowed to expand to allow for horses based upon a study done by Colorado State University as an example to make sure that the land is able to support additional horses and kept clean. Thank you.
I think land uses in any type, whether it be horses or other land issue, need to be revisited periodically and adjusted for what the current thoughts of the community are. I don't have a horse right now, so I don't have a position on this. They are very, very prevalent horse owners in our county. So I would like to hear from the rest of the county on how they view this. And obviously any type of ruling would have to abide by the safe. They would have to have animals that were not treated poorly, and conditions that would help. That's all I have.
I don't know if this is true, but I have heard that the current land regulations here in Park County were written by somebody from Boulder. I'm sorry, but I'm going to think Boulder. No, never mind. My personal feeling is that it's your property. As long as you're not infringing on somebody else, as long as you maintain it and maintain the horses, I do not see any issues with changing some of the regulations. And no regulations are written in stone. I believe, like anything else that I agree with Mike, they can be adjusted from time to time. Thank you.
Last question. Ready? Yeah. What is your understanding of some of the concerns of our county workers?
County workers? Is that what you said?
County workers.
Sorry.
I'm not sure. I could surmise that they aren't being paid enough. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. I don't have any ties to the county currently. I don't have any friends who work for the county. I don't have any family who works for the county. That's one of my platforms, is that I'm the new face. I'm the guy who's going to bring new ideas to here and not be the same old repeated answer. I have creative ways of looking at things. I don't know. I'm sure there's 200 county workers that when elected, I'll have to answer to, and I'm sure I'll hear their views, and I'm very open. Communications is one of if not the most important aspect of this job. So I'm willing to listen to any of their concerns, and if we can address them, for sure we'll accommodate them. But specific issues I can't address at this point. That's all.
For the first time in 3 or 4 years, our county employees are getting a raise. Nothing spectacular, because their insurance is changing, and it bounces out, I believe, to about a 1% increase, which is still better than nothing. I believe that when you have road and bridge employees driving around in $100,000 of equipment, and they're making $14.50 an hour, and you have deputy sheriffs that are making $29,000, $30,000, $31,000 to start, I think they're underpaid, and most of them are on food stamps. I would like to find a way to give them more money, but if not, I would like to propose that come first quarter of 2015, when the jail's paid off, we now are saving $600,000 a year, that a portion of that does go to county employees. And the reason is very simple. I don't want to have a revolving door. I want us to get quality employees, and I want us to keep them in Park County. That's all I got. Thank you.
Pass.
Okay, that's the 6 questions. You care to give your 5 minutes? Okay.
Won't be 5 minutes. Thank you for all for taking the time out of your day to help make important choices for our county. My name is Mike Brazell. I've lived in Park County for nearly 20 years. I've had no particular interest in politics until I recently started looking at my hard-earned tax dollars that are currently being spent. Projects like the jail, communications center, new proposed buildings concerned me. I wanted to serve my community in some manner, so I decided to run for county commissioner. I've been involved locally as a leader in many different organizations and groups, including schools, local schools, scouting, and Buffalo Creek Gun Club. Being a leader is critical to the success of any organization. The ability to listen to your members and act on their wishes without pandering to the special interest, which can sometimes be loud but do not represent the majority, is a critical strength of any leader. To have foresight and stick on the course you promised to communicate effectively and encourage discussion, which undercover ideas that would have been explored, would not have been explored, or skills I have learned. I spent most of my lifetime in these positions and developed these skills which will benefit our county in taking a conservative direction for our future. My career has been spent as an engineering project manager, developing systems and buildings with very complex requirements. The experience I gained managing large multi-million-dollar budgets and interfacing with a wide range of departments will be invaluable in a position as commissioner. Having worked on a large number of successful projects that came in on time within budget, I understand the details and strategies that are implemented to prevent problems. Problem solving is a main part of my career and a challenge I enjoy on a daily basis. I believe Park County has some opportunities for me in this area. Engineering has a basic belief that everything can be improved on. No system is perfect, and there is a continual drive to improve efficiency. My mind never stops working with these concepts. Many times some of the best ideas come in the shower or on the drive to work. I'll be working to improve our government 24/7, and I take the job home every day. Our current budget spending has not reflected the loss of revenue we have experienced through this economic downturn. If we continue on our current trend, we will be broke by 2015. This is not a statement of gloom and doom, but some conservative correction needs to be put in place to prevent this from occurring. This takes a strong conservative leader and a new man. Part of the problem is spending. We should not be in a growth mode right now. Projects on the horizon that do not have a very quick payback should be reevaluated. When elected, I will put in place a simple process of evaluating projects based on the return on investment. All successful businesses implement this tool, and it can quickly identify which items should move forward and which need further consideration. Items that have an RIO of less than 2 years are typically easy decisions. Without this type of tool, it's easy to make bad fiscal decisions. Our current budget is almost 180 pages long. I plan on going through every line item as if I had done on previous projects. This always produces questions that can lead to cost-saving alternatives. It also discloses waste and inefficiency. The second part of the budget is income. I do not intend to raise property taxes. We are taxed enough, maybe too much. I have met with many business owners in Park County, and they have indicated that it is difficult to conduct business here from some of the restrictions and rules the county imposes. As a former small business owner, I understand some of their frustration. I will conduct a number of forums and discussions to find out exactly what changes can potentially be implemented to help our current and future businesses be more profitable. Efficiency and government seem diametrically opposed most of the time. I believe I can help with this. I've spent a career figuring out how to do more with less. Value-based engineering is about achieving the same goal using alternate creative solutions to reduce cost. It involves thinking outside the box, using people's input from areas you would not typically include in discussions. By including individuals from outside the inner circle, you're presented with ideas that would have never came out, perspectives that you would never evaluate had you not included them. This approach has worked on many different projects I have worked on, and I will continually seek input like this. Communication. Oh, I'm sorry. Just 5 minutes.
First of all, again, I want to thank you all for being here. I think on the short notice that we had, I think it's great that you're able to be here. Let me state 3 things emphatically. I'm opposed to any new taxes, and I'm opposed to any increases of property taxes outside of the law, which means Tabor, unless it's voted on by the citizens of this county. Number 2, I'm opposed to any new buildings in this county unless it's approved by the citizens of this county. The only caveat is if a building collapses, we have to replace it. Obviously, we're not going to replace it. Number 3, as I said earlier, there are 13 precincts. There are 13 weeks and a quarter. Each Friday, I will be in a different precinct to talk to anybody who wants to talk to me, answer any questions. And one thing I would love to have is somebody come up to me and say, hey, this county employee did a great job. Can you thank him for me? I think that's very important. One of the things we talked about earlier was, how do we reward county employees? One of them is to say, hey, you've done a great job. Because sometimes that's not done. I believe that this county is in a stagnation mode. Our population is down slightly in the past 10 years because of the economy. I believe it's imperative upon us to get businesses into this county. Not an HP, not an IBM, but to get small to medium businesses in here, service businesses. Again, we have a very well-educated workforce. We have unbelievable recreational capabilities here. And I also believe that the quality of life, because of the proximity to where we are, to Denver, to Colorado Springs, to the ski resorts, is phenomenal. Never mind the fishing, which I happen to love. We have to exploit that. We have to take advantage of it. Now that Wild Blue is going into the Fairplay area, that's going to allow us to look at putting service centers up there to create jobs that, yeah, they're not $1,000 a week jobs, but maybe they're paying enough money that people won't have to be on food stamps. People can find jobs. And if they're finding jobs, they're going to be paying taxes, and paying taxes works to our benefit. I want to entice businesses here from out of state. By doing that, I want to get a video, like we did in Denver, except having a video, we'll make it into a DVD. And if you hear some organization or some company in Las Cruces, New Mexico, that just had their abatements jacked up 45%, maybe we can entice them to move that 20-person job to Bailey or Fairplay or Grant or Guffey. We bring the jobs here, people are going to live here. If they live here, they're going to pay taxes here, they're going to spend money here. I would love to get a supermarket built on Crow Hill. It's been talked about for years. Right now, everyone up here goes shopping in Conifer. Well, why not spend the money here, and why not create the jobs here? Why not create jobs where today's youth that are in high school or that are graduating can stay here and work here, instead of having to drive all the way to Conifer. It's 15 miles from here to Conifer. In the snow, it's not a safe drive no matter what. I also believe that I'm one of 3 commissioners. We work as a group. We work collegiately. We don't work individually. We work together for the benefit of this county. We work together for the benefit of the citizens of this county. Fortunately, I know the other commissioners. I've been to county commissioners' meetings over the past 3 years. I've met with the various department heads for the past 4 years. I've been active in Republican politics here for the past 4 years. Some people may not say that's good, that's your decision. I believe that this county has tremendous potential, and I want to take advantage of it. I think this county has a lot to offer. I think the citizens of this county have a lot to be proud of. And I think I want to say to Dick, and if John or Mark were here, I'd say the same thing. Thank you for the job you've done. Fred, thank you for the job that you've done. And I look forward to serving you. Start January. Thank you.
Let's take about a 5-minute break, and then we will start on the judicial district. Start it off, and we'll start with her, and go back and forth and do the same thing at the end. Communications and transparency seem to be big issues. How do they apply to the judicial district?
Well, I believe government should be small, and government works for the people and is accountable to the people. And in order to achieve that in this day and age, there's two crucial things. An elected official needs to be visible, it needs to be in the community, needs to hear the concerns, needs to address the concerns, because you are reflecting the will of the people. And in order to represent them and understand what the will of the people is and do a good job, that's what you need to do. So I will be a very visible elected DA with a complete open door policy. But number two, in this day and age, it is not just sufficient to speak to the press alone. I believe you owe, just like other congressmen and good senators, a newsletter, timely press releases, keeping the public appraised of what's going on. And that's where we're lacking currently. The website is in a very dire state of affairs, and I would change that within a couple of weeks. If anybody's interested to see my campaign website, the Vote for Dagna, you can see how interactive and responsive one can be with electronic media up to this day. And that's what I will bring. Just within a few weeks, you will have a fully operational website with all the information from budget, decisions, cases are what are being tried, and also what the priorities are of the office. And if you can't find something, you will come through my open door and tell me, and I'll be there the next day. Woo!
I submit that communications and transparency is important, that it comes from an objective source, not just from a politician who's campaigning all the time, but it's important that you know what your district attorney's office is doing through an objective source, a source such as the media. Their job is to be the watchdog for the district attorney's office and your politicians. You should get your information not from a biased source like an elected official, but from an unbiased source such as a media outlet. So it's important that the district attorney be responsive to the media outlets and those the organizations that are responsible for being a watchdog, which is exactly what I've done. It's been my policy ever since I took office that you would never hear reported that the district attorney was not available for comment, and you have never heard that about me. With respect to transparency and communications, it's also important, in my opinion, that that happen on a face-to-face level. You can't really communicate with your district attorney's office through a Facebook page or a web page. It's important that you have the ability to speak to your district attorney on a face-to-face level. That's why, again, ever since I took office, we've had an open door policy, and I've invited anyone who has a question about a case to come and meet with me personally about it.
Well, this is not what I hear. I'm out and about with the voters, with the constituents every day, and that's not what I hear. When I hear people frustrated that they have called and emailed for 3 years and they don't get a reply back, that's what I want to change. And since December, I have been harping on this district attorney that before he took office, on his JD11 website, there was a link in this corner where you could read the press releases all the way back to 2003, which the prior elected DAs generated. I've been harping on him since December. You know what happened as of March? The entire link got deleted.
What do you see as unique challenges to a rural judicial district?
Well, the distance for starters. As an elected district attorney, we have an office in Canyon City, Fairplay, and Salida. And it's very difficult to manage three offices from a central location. I live in Fremont County. Fremont County is 55% roughly of the population of the 11th Judicial District. We have 55% of the cases are handled out of Fremont County. And so that's why I keep my main office there in Fremont County. Because of the challenge of the distance, I don't get to spend as much time in the other counties as I would like, Park County, Custer County, and Chaffey County. And so the bottom line is, and we average 5,000 cases annually district-wide. So the bottom line is, you really rely on your people, the deputy district attorneys and the other staff members that we have in those offices to well represent the people of their communities, their individual communities. And so that's why it's important that we have a strong team. And that is a challenge in a rural area. Again, we've heard about budget problems and the difficulty of paying individuals what they're truly worth. And so that's the biggest challenge. Despite that challenge, we have had very minimal turnover. We've had a very strong team working with the 11th Judicial District. We haven't had much turnover with our attorneys. We haven't I've hired only one attorney since I took over 3 years ago, and that's because we do have a strong, dedicated, and experienced team. And that's one person, one man, one woman, can't do everything throughout the entire 11th Judicial District because of its size and its scope. So it really comes down to being a strong leader and having a strong team, a solid, committed team that's stable. And that's what we've had in the 11th Judicial District before my time and continuing through this first term. Thank you.
What do you see as unique challenges to a rural judicial district?
Definitely keeping in touch with the people, keeping in touch with the agency. And let's go back to with the various agencies such as law enforcement, sheriff's offices, and police offices. And within the size of the district, you deal with various chiefs of police, various sheriffs, and I think in order to keep the community as a whole safe and preserve our way of life, we cannot focus resources based on caseload. Oh, the action is happening in Fremont, so let's forget about the outskirts. Especially since we're in Park County. Park County has very sophisticated and complicated criminal offenses committed right here in this county. And we need to spend resources efficiently, and especially it is up to the elected leader to have that presence. And you cannot delegate that to your deputy district attorney. The deputy district attorney can handle the case loads, but you as the leader of the office should have presence again in the community, presence with the various agencies who need your aid, help, and legal advice of how to prosecute, how to investigate the cases, so then the prosecution can be swift and efficient later.
Well, uncharacteristically, I agree. It is important to be in touch with the people throughout your 11th Judicial District. That's why I attend the quarterly law enforcement meetings with the Park County Sheriff's Office, the Montana Marshal, the Colorado State Patrol, the state parks. I attend personally each of those meetings that we have. I also somewhat resent the allegation that I haven't been active in Park County. I have handled personally the infamous horse case. I'm handling that case personally. I handled the Spikester sex assault case, a week-long sex assault trial that we did this time last year. I personally handled the Kendall case. I did not shrink from that difficult case. And my assistant district attorney is personally handling the Wagner case. So the leaders of this office do care about Park County and are present in Park County.
Well, and this is...
No.
Oh, I thought you wanted me to run. I'm ready.
What percentage of cases do you feel should be resolved through plea bargains?
Currently, 99% of the cases get pled. I believe the prosecutorial office is a trial office, and the trial statistics are meager. Even though my opponent keeps insisting that they compare well to the national average, I don't know what statistics he's pulling. the very man who's endorsing him, who wrote a book, the Attorney General, he himself says 4% is a good, 4% of cases going to trial is a good trial statistic. We're at 1%. Well, within my first year in office, I would double the trials. And my goal would be to triple the trial rate in this district, so and also uphold that. And I draw on my experience as a former prosecutor and also defense counsel when I say that. I tried as a former prosecutor over 10 cases per year. And it's possible. Currently, prosecutors are trying 2.5 cases in this district per year. And we need to drastically increase the efficiency. And it's possible. I've seen it. I've worked for one of the largest offices in Colorado. And it's all about leadership and a can-do attitude of setting the tone in this office and what the expectations are, as opposed to, well, we can't. And there's never an explanation why we can't. It's just that we can't.
Bottom line is we try more cases on average than the statewide average through district attorneys. I get that information from the state Supreme Court website, the trial averages and the number of deputy district attorneys in each office. It's simple math. You divide it out. We're doing more than other offices in the state. We're also doing more than other offices in the state with 10 or fewer deputy district attorneys. The bottom line is, when you start out in this business, you start out doing county court cases. You start out doing misdemeanor trials, which are very simple, single-day trials. When I started, I spent 2 years in county court in Pueblo, and I tried 25 cases in those 2 years. I averaged 12, 13 trials a year, because those were simple, one-day misdemeanor trials. A felony trial takes anywhere from 3 days to 2 weeks. The last murder case I tried was a 2-week-long first-degree murder case. So you cannot try 5,000 cases a year. You simply cannot try all of those cases. My opponent proposes that she would triple from 1% to 3%. She'd still be plea bargaining 97% of all of the criminal cases in the 11th Judicial District. It's not a significant difference.
And I believe there's a difference between trying 2 cases a year and trying 10 cases a year, and that's where our math discrepancy comes from. Again, what I'm saying is, in a mixed docket, which most of those jurisdictions that we have 3 courthouses, one in Salida, Fairplay, Fremont County, and Canyon City, and then there's a part-time courthouse in Custer County, the DAs over there are dealing in a mixed docket, which means you have a mixture of misdemeanors and mixture of felonies. So again, my goal is trial rate increase, double, if not triple, long term.
In that funds to do trials are limited, what are your ideas to increase funding to prosecute more cases?
Well, the commissioner will tell you that the district attorney's budget is a little over $2 million. $1.5 million of those dollars comes from the collective counties. So every year, twice a year, the commissioner will assure you, I go groveling on my knees, begging for more money to increase funding to the district attorney's office, and you can guess exactly how that goes. I suspect, from what I've heard this evening, that that's going to go the same way this year that it went last year. So in terms of, being a district attorney is not a profit business. You don't increase your returns. You don't increase your revenues. It's about doing the right thing and trying the right types of cases. So what you have to do is be more efficient with your money. And that means you need to analyze your case properly and go on the right cases, go on the cases that need to be tried. What I have done is I've increased the cost recovery from the Department of Corrections. When I took over, the Department of Corrections was not paying, and it doesn't impact Park County as much, but throughout the 11th Judicial District, the Department of Corrections was not paying their fair share of the cost recovery for the prosecutions we were doing. I've worked with the Department of Corrections, and we've significantly increased our cost recovery from the Department of Corrections. We also significantly increased our cost recovery in terms of our discovery. We provide copies of all of our files to defense attorneys. That's required by law. We're allowed to get our cost recovery for that. When I took office, we weren't getting our adequate cost recovery from the defense attorneys and the defendants. So I increased that. Both of those things have allowed us to survive the budget limitations of the last 4 years. Not only survive, but thrive in those difficult budgetary times.
Well, coming from the business world, I am very astute in managing financial resources. I've built 2 businesses from scratch over a span of 10 years, 2 successful businesses, and one of them is a law firm. I'm managing 3 other attorneys and their staff. And I do know what I can expect from them. And I do also know that a goal of a prosecutor's office, in order to be a good office to seek justice, you need to have attorneys on your staff who can handle the most sophisticated cases, such as homicides, rapes, robberies, efficiently in court without needless appeals later that could be overturned. And if you don't push them to trial, they will not have the training when that case comes along.
No, you get it. That's all right. He's gonna get confused.
I didn't remember either, to be honest with you. Let's talk about budget management. When I took over the office, we were annually pulling $33,000 from our reserve fund to balance our budget. Despite the flat funding from the counties in the last 3 years, we are now, in 2012, 0 coming out of our reserve fund. We are at a balanced budget without taking any money from our reserve fund, from the District Attorney's Office Reserve Fund. I'm particularly proud of that. We also annually pull in $250,000, $250,000 in grant funding to support our juvenile diversion and our victim advocacy programs. Particularly proud of that as well. We have done this by reducing our staff in order to meet our budgetary limitations by approximately 20%. When I started, 10 attorneys, now 8. 20% reduction of the staff, the investigative staff and the administrative staff, yet we are still satisfactorily and efficiently prosecuting the cases.
What should the DA do to promote victims' rights?
Well, I'm a big proponent of victims' rights, and let me tell you why it is so important. Colorado Constitution actually passed a Victims' Bill of Rights, which means the purpose behind that is sometimes victims, which are often witnesses in horrendous crimes, get re-victimized in the system. And the Victims' Bill of Rights was passed with the purpose of having those victims have adequate input at every crucial stages of the case. Being heard by the prosecutor, being heard by the judicial bench, also being heard by law enforcement agencies. And it's really important to me that those rights will be afforded to victims. And it will be training the prosecutorial staff in being especially sensitive, so people come out with the sense that they're being heard, that their concerns are being taken seriously. And there will be cases where I would not find enough or sufficient evidence to prosecute, but it's so important to sit down and explain to people who have been in that system for no choice of their own why that is so, and basically afford them the face-to-face time, and I will make sure that happens. I am actually taking pro bono cases in this district representing victims, counseling them on how they can get heard, because there are serious lapses in this outreach program in the current prosecutorial office.
That you cast a critical eye on such vague allegations of that. My opponent has not entered in representation of a single victim throughout the entire 11th Judicial District. So to say that there are serious lapses is not true. That's just patently false. There's not been a single violation of the Victims' Rights Amendment since I took office. It's not about promoting victims' rights, it's about respecting victims' rights. I spent an hour this evening in Bailey just getting to know a teenage sex assault victim. An hour, nothing more than to just get to know her so that I could handle that case properly. I did that tonight. We do that throughout our entire, everything we do with respect to victims' rights cases is along those lines. Thank you.
Well, I think it will be a surprise to Mr. LeDoux if he does open a complaint from the Victims' Bill of Rights Commission. In order for there to be a complaint, you have, as an attorney, you have to counsel your client how to file one, how to pull the records and review the records and see if there's substantiation. So there is a complaint that has been filed, and I've disclosed the client before with her knowledge. It's Ms. Joy Lewis. And she does have a substantial complaint, and she's not the only one. Has it already stopped? But she's the only one who gave me permission to talk about it.
Okay, Tom, last question. What role should the public play in any case?
Well, as the elected district attorney, you represent the people of the state of Colorado, but you also represent justice and the right outcome in a particular case. So being a district attorney, I think, is perhaps a little bit different than being a different kind of politician. It's different and it's the same. You are to take into account and that's why we have district attorneys, so that you can take into account the thoughts and the considerations of your community and the values of your particular community. But you don't just take a poll and do whatever the public wants you to do. We don't just, okay, should we file charges against this person or not file charges in this? And 51, raise your hand if you think we should file charges or not. And whoever wins 51% of that vote, that's what we do. That's not what you do. You elected me to be the district attorney, to make those hard decisions, to take into account the community, what the community wants to see, which is why it's really important that your elected district attorney live in the community, be from the community, and know the community as I am. But then you have to take that input, that information, that knowledge, that background that you have, and you have to make your own decision about how to move forward with the case. Believe me, I've made decisions that weren't popular, and quite frankly, if we took a 50-50 vote, that would probably go against the decision that I've made. But you didn't elect me to just do whatever more than half of the public wants me to do. You elected me to make my own decisions about what the right thing is to do in that particular case. That's what I've been doing throughout my prosecutorial career, and that's what we'll continue to do in the second term.
The job of an elected district attorney is indeed to seek justice. It's not about winning a case or losing a case. It's to seek justice in every single case. This is where I stand out from my opponent, because I have not been a career prosecutor with tunnel vision all my life. I don't come just from one side of the aisle. I come from a business perspective of 10 years. I come from a prosecutorial office, and I also come as defense counsel. I have been on both sides of the aisle of the system, and I see the differences in perspectives. I see problems with cases. I've been trained to see cases from both sides. And that's where I think I can bring this efficiency to the office as a leader. And again, in order to represent the people efficiently, you do have to know what the priorities are in the office, in the community that you live in. You have to work efficiently with law enforcement. You have to know what a given community struggles with. Is there a pattern of burglaries? Is there a pattern of serious DUI offenses? Those are the things you want to work with the community on, so you can set an end to it and prosecute those vigorously.
Again, it's not just as simple as going out and asking the community what they want to see. It's more important than that. You need to be part of the community before you can represent that community. You need to have grown up with those people. You need to have gone to high school with those people. You need to have spent years throughout the 11th Judicial District. You need to be raising your family in that community to know what that community wants and to be able to represent that community. That's what it means to represent the people, is to be one of those people. Not to just go down to the coffee shop and say, hey, let me spend 5 minutes with you and find out who you are. That's impossible. You need to know who those people are because you are one of them. And that's why commitment to the community is particularly important in this job and in this race.
David, do you want to do the first 5 minutes?
Sure. Actually, since we jumped into the question and answer period right along, but I did want to mention, since we're in Bailey, and just a few weeks ago, the community here had a loss of their fire chief, and I just wanted to extend my serious condolences to the community. I actually was driving through Bailey that particular day, and I saw the procession, and it was just touching to see how many people came out and took time out in their day to honor such an important man. And so I just wanted to express my my condolences and reflect, even if it's just a few seconds, on the importance of public service, and that we remember the people who dedicate their lives to the community, because they will be remembered in our thoughts and our prayers when we go on. Okay, to wrap up this particular debate, if there are any questions from the audience, I would like to use that time to take audience questions. Anybody with any type of loose ends? No? Oh, yes.
This is Bailey, Colorado, and we're 100 miles from any other office that sounds to me like. How much time do you plan on spending in this immediate area?
A lot, because it is important. If
Well,
you
we
are a
don't have
member
a lot
of
of time to do it.
if you are a member of an organization, or you have a group that you want me to come and speak to, I will have an open door policy to any of you to come, invite me, send me an email, call me, and I will schedule to be out here. Because sometimes you might have, like we had the Bailey horse case. So that's something that is of interest to the community, it might be. And a particular group might invite me to come and speak, and I will try to, if this is an ongoing case or investigation, to explain. If I can't go into the minutiae and details of the case, because ethically I can't, I will try to explain to you the procedures, the process, the options in general, so you as a community would be cued in such an important juncture, in such an important event. So I think there's always something an elected official can do, rather than just throwing up their hands saying, I can't talk about it at all, there's nothing I can do or say. There are ways to generally educate the public, and I will do my best to be that kind of person who would come out and speak. So please invite me. I have not declined a single invitation in this crazy campaign schedule.
What are you doing the second Tuesday in July?
Actually, it depends. In the evening, I am in Canyon City. I will be riding a bull. So, yes. And the organizer says they're giving me a whip to crack as well. I don't know if I'll take the whip, but I'll definitely take the Texas Longhorn Bull and see what I can do. But I'm available in the morning. Absolutely. I rise early. You know, with a 1-year-old, I'm up at like 5:30. So we'll talk a little bit later and set this thing up. Anybody else? Well, then thank you so much for listening. I don't have anything else to wrap up. I think I answered the questions, and I would appreciate your vote. I have some campaign flyers and also business cards. If you need my phone number, if you think about something later, please call me. I love to hear from you. Thank you.
Let's talk about how it really works. There's a case that you should be familiar with if you've been watching the news, the Bailey horse case. We've heard about it. So the Bailey horse case came to my attention because I received for about a week-long period a dozen emails a day from members of this community and neighboring communities about the horse case. So what did I do with that? I met with them in person, despite the fact that, quite frankly, they weren't particularly happy with me or my office and the way that the initial court hearing went. Despite the fact that they were upset with me, I met with them in person. 4 of them came to my office. Anyone who sent me an email that wanted to meet with me in person about that case, even to complain, I met with them in person. I provided them a transcript of the hearing that they were unhappy about. I did everything I could to answer all of their questions and take their input. At the end of the second horse hearing, one of those individuals who was very upset with me when we sat down in that room to meet in person thanked me as he walked out of the courtroom. So that's what it means to represent the community. And that's exactly what I do. Believe me, I didn't do that because it's the campaign season. I had other campaign events I could have been doing while I was meeting with these individuals, who quite frankly probably won't vote for me anyway. But it's important to meet with those people, again, not over Facebook, not by a web page, but face to face. They sent me emails, I responded to them, and I invited them to sit down, look me in the eye, tell me their complaints, and we would address them. And that's exactly what we did, and we did so successfully. You have had that for the last 3.5 years while I've been the elected district attorney. You will have that for the next 4.5 years while I'm the elected district attorney. That's my commitment to you. That's what we have done. That's what we'll do in the future. We have an office in Fairplay. Over the last month, I've been in that office more than once a week. Again, handling the horse case personally. I handled the Kindle case personally, another controversial case. I did not shy away from that challenge. I could have given that to a deputy district attorney and said, this one's controversial, there's a campaign going on, people are not happy about this, I need you to distance me personally from this case. But that's not what a good elected district attorney does. A good elected district attorney stands in front of the people and says, even though this was a difficult decision and members of this community are unhappy with this decision, this is the right decision to make. And you know what, when I did that and we presented it to the judge agreed with me. That's what a strong elected district attorney does, and that's what I did. In that case, came to fair play and represented those individuals. In the Wagner cow case, again, I didn't just give that to my deputy district attorney, I assigned that to my assistant district attorney who's been a prosecutor for 20 plus years. She's been the assistant district attorney in this judicial district for more than 20 years. She was named the 2008 Prosecutor of the Year in the state of Colorado. She is in Park County prosecuting a misdemeanor animal cruelty case because it's important to you. It's important to this community, so it's important to me, so we assigned the assistant district attorney to the case. That's how you run a district attorney's office. That's how you care about Park County. That's how you care about the community that you represent, and that's what we've been doing. Please keep a critical ear when you hear allegations that my opponent makes. She makes vague allegations about emails and phone calls that haven't been returned. That is not true. We answer the phone when it rings. We return phone calls. We return emails. We do not shut people out. We do not ignore people. You can't just come up and make a vague allegation about phone calls that weren't returned or emails that weren't returned without giving specifics. You can't do that. And with respect to the victims' rights, think about the complaint that my opponent refers to as a complaint that she's filing. That's the only complaint I've ever heard of, and I haven't even heard of that one yet. So, again, use a critical ear when you're listening to these things that my opponent is saying. Demand specifics, and then demand answers from me. If you hear a complaint, call me, come to me, and I'll address it. And we'll do that the same way we address that with the horse individuals. Keep a critical ear when you hear that my opponent is going to triple the rate of trials without increasing the costs. You're good conservatives. You should know, that should sound funny in your ear. That's impossible. Going to trial costs money. You cannot triple the trial rate without increasing costs. That's a claim like we're just going to be tough on crime. That's a campaign complaint, boast. So use a critical ear when you hear those things. This campaign is about experience measured in years, not months, and commitment to the community. Actually living in a community and raising your family in a community. Those are the things you should vote for your district attorney on. Thank you.
Take another 5-minute break. Okay, House District 60, Thom Massey's seat. Thom's being term limited, so we have a chance to, in my opinion, I'm going to voice my opinion, we can get actually a conservative back into that seat. So, Jim has agreed to start with the first question. It's a little long. 2 bills died this year in the legislature. One defined the under the influence levels for marijuana while driving. The other civil unions. They will probably both be brought up next year. How do you feel about them?
Civil unions. I always figured a civil union was a husband and wife being nice to each other. I do not believe in the civil unions. The state of Colorado voted on this in 2006. The people have already spoken. So when you hear this garbage that goes out from the Golden Dome about how the representatives would have voted this way, so on and so forth, and we didn't allow the people to have their voice, the people had their voice. If we want another voice, put it on the ballot again and see how the people feel. That's what we believe as Republicans. I believe anyway that the people vote and they express their opinion. The second one on marijuana, medical marijuana. I believe is a farce. I go by some dispensaries, I have yet to see anyone parked in the handicap zone. If you have chronic pain, folks, I don't have any problem with you, whatever medication you need for chronic pain. I have no problem with that, but it should be dispensed over the counter, just like I go to the pharmacy and get my other pain-killing drug. So when those two, the one on marijuana going down because we couldn't raise or lower the limit, whichever way you want to put that, I think it ought to be more restricted. Simply saying that we have more people driving under the influence of anything. Cell phones, alcohol, marijuana doesn't make it safe for the rest of us. That's my position on those two. Thank you.
This could be one of those ones where it's really tough to tell the difference between the two of us. So I would tend to agree with Jim on this. The medical marijuana, I voted for the medical marijuana when it came through, but the implementation of the law has been terrible. We do need to have guidelines. If someone is taking medical marijuana for legitimate pain, what are they doing on the highway anyway? If it's really a legitimate pain, there are people who need medical marijuana. I agree with the concept of it, but we do need to put limits in place on who should be driving under the influence of marijuana, just like we have with who should be driving under the influence of alcohol. In terms of civil unions, absolutely against it. It is, as Jim said, something we've already voted on, and it opens up a whole other can of worms with things just like the contraceptive mandate that came through. What happens if a Catholic school has a gay teacher? They hired the most qualified teacher, and they provide spousal benefits. Are we going to force that Catholic school to violate their conscience, to provide health insurance for a union that violates the entire tenet of the faith? So that's how I feel on both of those.
To differentiate, since you're going to have a problem differentiating between two nice guys, okay? One of the challenges of the representative position is to have the common sense and the wherewithal to figure out the hidden agendas. And when you're dealing, these are two issues that have one agenda up front, there's another agenda driving it. You have got to be able to differentiate between those agendas and see beneath the waters to see what's actually going on to represent HD 60.
Sorry, I take notes to make sure that I'm getting all the points in.
A majority of Park County residents are concentrated east of Kenosha Pass. Most are in a more urban environment and work in the city. What do you see as their needs?
There are definite differences between the two sides of Park County. I'm a Park County resident. I live on the other side of the pass, the more rural side of the pass. Part of the issue that we need to deal with on a state level is, why do so many people from Park County have to go to the city to work? Why do we not have the jobs here? One of the key factors in Park County and in HD 60 is economic development. We really need to create the jobs here so that we create the opportunity for our kids to stay in the community as well. Right now, all the kids graduate, they go elsewhere to college, and they never come back. And that's one of the reasons why our population is going down. I have been working for about the past 7 years with the South Park Economic Council over on the South Park side of the county, trying to work on bringing jobs into this region. I also work in tourism promotion. That's my background. So tourism is another one of those industries that is key for up here. But there are definite differences. You here in Bailey are not going to be as concerned with some of the more agricultural issues. Over on the other side, it is a lot of agriculture and things like drilling for oil and gas. So there are going to be differences in there. But again, the key is, why do we accept the fact that people from Bailey have to drive to Denver to go to work? That would be my key emphasis on it.
Repeat that question for
A majority of Park,
in that.
a majority of Park County residents reside east of Kenosha Pass, over here. Most are in a more urban environment and work in the city. What do you see as their needs?
That's not unique to other parts of HD 60, but it is unique because you are close to an urban center. The reason why you migrate this way, I think, is what we need to address, to try to get away from that part of the state and come to a more normal part of the state. The piece of it is, as far as the needs, and it's critical throughout HD 60, you have to be in communication with the people. You have to be able to interact and articulate the needs. And that's one of the frustrations that I see as I've traveled HD 60, is exactly during the time of the legislative session is the time you don't have time to interact with your people, to be in the coffee shops, to be in conversation with the folks, because the people on this side of Park County have the same heart as the people on the other side. And the connection with agriculture folks, we probably won't get into it tonight, but over there, they want our water, and it's all our water. It is an issue of all of us. Thank you.
Don't have anything to add.
Whoops.
He doesn't have anything to add. So come on back up.
I thought it was time to pop up.
What issues are there around para, and what would you propose to do to fix them?
Issues around para are huge, particularly depending on who you talk to. That's the retirement system for public employees in the state of Colorado. The issues are simply this: is it funded to where it won't become a taxpayer liability? Senate Bill 1 was passed in 2010 to address that issue. And one of the biggest critics of the program, or the biggest critiques of the program, is that it's looking at an 8% return on the investment. In the first year, that return was actually, it was either 11 or 12%. This year it has not fared as well. It's averaging about 9 right now. So the issue is, how can that be maintained? If our economy goes south, folks, it won't be maintained. There's no way it will be maintained. So we do have to address that. My point is, we passed a bill to address it, and now we're looking at the results of that. We need to stay on top of it so we do not get to the point where it eats us alive. That's the entire issue. We have more than just the issue of para in that. Anytime that you have the state funding anything, Medicare is another issue. It's not funded. Social Security is not funded. Post office is not funded. So we need to keep in tune to actually how it is operating and stay on top of it. Since I happen to receive para, I'm very much interested in it. By the same token, I don't want to pay any more for it as a public taxpayer. So I want to stay on top of it, and would pledge to you that I would do so, because I've seen how it works. I know what the challenges are. Thank you.
Well, para is definitely an issue, and it's going to be an issue. And one of the first things that I would say is that we need to, if we've made a promise to our current retirees, we can't change that. We can't change something midstream, but we need to fix it now, because if we don't fix it now, people that we're making that promise to now aren't going to have the benefits of it, because we won't be able to afford it. The 8% return on investment is a pretty lofty goal that I think needs to be looked at. One of the things that we need to look at with para is, right now it is a defined benefit program, where the people who are retired, their income is guaranteed, instead of a defined contribution program like the private sector 401ks. We need to make para operate more like a 401k, so that we can, the amount you get out is based on how much you put in. And that will go a long way towards fixing the problem.
I may have to vote for my opponent. Because Senate Bill 1 did take away from those who retired, because they did vote to try to help fix the program. So you might get my vote on that part. The other piece to that, when you have a defined benefit program, somebody has to administer it. The devil is in the details, folks. It's who wants their hands on the money. I'm not too comfortable with the government taking it over. I've seen how well they've done on their other programs. But I do believe we need to work at getting it fixed to where in the long term it's not a challenge for those who retire. Thank you.
Okay, changing. How do you feel about vouchers and homeschooling?
This one's a big one for me. I've heard a lot of discussion on vouchers and homeschooling in terms of, especially with vouchers, people concerned about giving government money to religious schools, just as a classic case. The problem here is not the fact that it's quote-unquote government money going to religious schools. The problem is we're calling it government money. There is no such thing. If a parent has paid into the tax system for a service that they are not using fully, why would anyone have a problem giving some of that money, not all of it, some of that money back to the parent for that parent to have the choice on where to school their kids, whether it be at home, be it a charter school, a private school, a religious school. As long as they are meeting the educational goals of the state of Colorado, the parents should have full, open choice of how to bring up their kids. It should not be dictated from Denver. It should not be some government mandate. There are basic requirements that should be met, but the parents should have that choice. We need to take the government out of the role of deciding how our kids are going to be schooled. And I know I'm going to steal the line from Jim. We also need to get our schools out of the business of raising kids and get them into the business of educating kids. Sorry, Jim, we've traveled a lot together, so I know, and I agree with him on that point. So I will give him full credit for saying that, but that is one of the things, and it should be the choice of the parents completely.
I tried to foul because he was up first on that one. Strangely enough, folks, you're looking at an educator here, 4 decades in education. But I survived as a conservative redneck Republican. And so I can tell you that that wasn't easy. Vouchers. If you took a voucher and went from Fair Play to Buena Vista, you might take $4,500. If you send your child there now by choice, under the School Choice Act, you receive about $7,300. So you do have a choice, and the money does follow the child. I don't believe that a voucher system, that the choice words are what we need to concentrate on. I believe results are what we need to concentrate on, and that's why the phrase came, we need to quit raising children in school and educating them and get the results, because I don't care where you send your child in Colorado today with a voucher, with school choice, homeschool, wherever, well, homeschool would probably be an exception, but they will not receive an education that's competitive in the world today, and that's what we need to fix. I believe in accountability, and let's get after it so our children can have a world-class education.
I will respond briefly on this one too. I believe in accountability also. I'm a free market capitalist. To me, the best accountability out there is to get schools to compete for the education dollar, whether it be a private school, a parochial school, a public school, or homeschooling. And it should be the parents' choice who gets their money.
I want to rebut that one too.
Well, you know, where you wander is your own choice. How do you feel about merit pay for teachers?
Boy, this could put me in difficulty because I had a person in another county that jumped me about this because they totally misunderstood what I said. In 40 years of education, I was never in favor of the salary schedule. Because if I worked my rear off in the classroom and you just sat over there and twiddled your thumbs, we both got the same increase the next year. There's something wrong with that picture. As far as the merit increase, I would not, if in my ideal world, I'd like to go headhunting and to be able to go after the best science teacher, the best math teacher, and that's the challenge that we have in HD 60, because we compete with the cities where I lost a math teacher to Fort Collins because they made $15,000 more than what we could pay them. That's what I need. To do the merit, you've still got to have the money to do it. That's the challenge in today's world. If you don't have the money, you can't do it. I am in favor of the merit pay system because essentially you're saying you do a good job, you get a bonus. My father-in-law, Christy's dad, worked in business in Oklahoma Natural Gas all of his life. If you did well, you got paid well. If you didn't do so well, You didn't work there that long. That's the way the system ought to work. They didn't have sick leave. If you were sick, you didn't come to work. If you were sick too much, you didn't have to come to work. That's what I believe. You reward your good people. The challenge is having the dollars to set that up. Thank you.
Well, I said it before, I'm a free market capitalist. I believe in competition. And to me, merit pay is the epitome of competition. You pay your best people the most money. And yes, money is an issue for our schools, but there are other things that can be done in the financial aspect of things, trying to direct money to the most qualified. We will have a struggle up here because of the rural nature of our district. And people who think that they're going to get ahead better by going to a city somewhere. And they will have more resources down there. But merit pay, I've always said that unions have outlived their effectiveness. We should not have our education system tied to the teachers' union, and we should reward good teachers with good pay. And we should get rid of any kind of tenure so that we can get rid of the bad teachers. The education of the kids is the most important thing, not the teachers' union.
This is a place where my opponent and I disagree. He made the statement that there's money that can be channeled in other areas. Isn't that true in county government? You could channel some more money to salaries, couldn't you? Folks, everything is strapped in this day and age. Everything is strapped. That's why the biggest challenge is trying to figure out where you come up with the pool of dollars to do that. We'd all love to do it, but we're trying to do just what we're doing now. So that's the challenge that we have. I totally agree. You pay your good people, you pay them well, and you keep them. Because quite frankly, I have still not recovered from losing that young lady to Fort Collins. Phenomenal math teacher, and I could not compete. And for those of you that know me, if I can't compete, I'm in trouble. Thank you.
Last question. It's a two-part.
Uh-oh, two-part.
Yeah.
I better take notes on this one.
Yeah. While the legislature is in session, will it be your only job? And how will you stay in touch with your constituency?
Okay. I am not retired. I have my own business. I am a meeting and event planner. My entire business is online. If I have a cell phone and an internet connection, I'm in the office. During the session, if I'm privileged enough to have you all send me to Denver, during the session, I can limit the number of clients that I take for those months of the session. It will not be my only job because I got a mortgage to pay. And the Colorado legislature technically is a part-time job. Now, I will have, because of the pay that goes along with that part-time job, I will have the ability to limit the number of clients that I take during the winter months. And honestly, right now, it's not much of an issue because my business has been destroyed by our current crop in Washington. So no, it will not be my only job, but my business will be relegated to the side during the course of the session. And what was the second part of the question?
How will you stay in touch with us?
How will I stay in touch? Number one, I love living up here. I don't want to live in Denver. I would be up here every opportunity. Whenever the legislature is in recess, I already have a Facebook page for my campaign. I'm very up on the technology. I carry one of those stupid smartphones around. I call it my leash because you can always reach me via email. You can reach me on Facebook. I have a toll-free number where you can call me from down here. It's a local call anyway, though. So that's how I would stay in touch. I will be up here as often as possible. And when the district is not, or when the legislature is not in session, I'm not going to be that legislator that disappears, that you only see around election time. I'll be back here. I'll be at your meetings. You'll get sick of seeing me.
I am retired. I had a career. I'm not looking to be a career politician, but I definitely want to represent HD 60. The question really hits at my heart because the thing that has affected me most of all in this and the time I spent going around in this four-county area are the people. Good people. And the frustrating thing is during the session, you are there from the second week of January to the second week of May, or longer if the governor wants to have a civil union deal. But you really don't have the contact with people during that time. I believe that this position is not a part-time position. It'll be a 24/7, 365 position. Because the time that you spend in these neighborhoods seeing the friends that you meet is extremely important. That's how you share each other's ideas and form that unity. That's extremely important to me. And I've already started traveling more in these neighborhoods than I ever traveled before just to see the folks. That's what it's all about. And I can pledge to you, I'll be there for you. Thank you.
Well, I will qualify my statement, that's why I said, technically, it's a part-time job. It is not a part-time job. It is more than full-time for the 120 days of the session, and the rest of the year is when you spend that time going around talking to all the constituents and finding out what the important issues are in the different areas. And that would be my commitment to you. Anytime you have a meeting, anytime you have any kind of community gathering, I will be there. Like I said, you'll get sick of seeing me.
Okay, Jim, you have 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Thank you very much for organizing this. Whoever put this together, thank you very much for putting it together. It's not easy, and thank you very much for the folks who came out. Many of you have seen us and heard us several times, and you know, the good news is we get to be good friends. The bad news is you get to know what we're going to say most of the time. I want to share with you exactly what you're getting. So for those of you that don't know, this will give you some idea. All of us look at this position as we look at being representative, and I'm talking about everyone across the state that are running for this position. Some have some experience, some don't. Some think we know what goes on, some don't have a clue. But I want to tell you, it's not going to be easy, and the shorter the learning curve, the better it's going to be for the candidate that's successful. We talk about jobs, and we talk about the ability to keep our kids here. The backbone to that in all 4 counties is broadband. We've got to have access. We've got to attract the businesses. They've got to be able to compete on a county level, state level, national level, and global level. That's the way we've got to do it. And it's just like 285 isn't wide enough. 285 is like the original internet that came to each of our towns. Now we need 4 lane, and we need 8 before it's over. We've got to have that. I have worked with distance learning from the time I came to Colorado through the satellite issues all the way through to today with EagleNet, with Randy, a former colleague of mine, is the head of EagleNet, working on that. And Florence just came up with Florence Connect. They're working there with the county commissioners on that. Second thing is fiscal responsibility. It's easy to sit back and say, I think I know how to handle these big budgets. I've had the experience of working with $1 million budgets, and I've had the experience of working in a school district that didn't have any money. It was flat busted. And we had to cinch it up, and that is not easy. You do not win friends and influence people in any way, shape, nor form. But if you have to make tough decisions, you've got to be tough enough and have the experience to do it. Third piece is, I've been in education for 40 years. As they say in Mexico, the one that knows the way to the bones is the one that carried the coffin. I've been in it. I know how we say, gosh, we'll do better. Systemic change is the big thing. I'm going to be speaking in Arkansas to a group of educators on systemic change. And my topic is systemic change. Really? You really want to do it? And then I'm going to unload on them. But you get to come back home and, you know, they can say what they want to about you. But I've been there. You've got to have a respected voice. And I have a respected voice across the state. Check with Jim, superintendent here. Check with Becky. We looked at that biomass boiler, which fascinates me. I've still got pictures of it back there on my phone. That's an amazing thing. So I've been there and done that. And fourth and finally, I was born on a farm, raised on a farm. Christy and I ran the farm. I know what it's like to be in agriculture. Our water rights were when God gave us the rain, and here we've got water that was given to us by God that since they passed the issue of the greater good, it may be at risk. And as we live even in cities and municipalities, they could take that water too. Those are the 4 things that I'm extremely concerned about. I've had experience with it. I look forward to your support to be able to represent you in Denver as a guy who's from rural and small areas And I've devoted 21 years in Colorado working for rural and small communities, and I want to continue to do so. Thank you.
So this is the challenge that we have. Jim and I travel around a lot, so when you travel around to the same forums, you end up getting to know each other. Jim's a good guy. I hope he would say the same thing about me. Whoever wins this race, if he wins, I would definitely support him in his election. I would hope he would say the same thing about me. So how do you differentiate between the two? And it's not good guy versus bad guy, it's just a choice of backgrounds. You need to look at what the different backgrounds are and what you think is most appropriate to what we have now. You know, we have someone who's worked 40 years in the public sector versus somebody who's been working in the private sector. Public sector experience is important. It's a very good thing to have. But do we have enough people in Denver who have public sector experience? That's a question you need to ask yourself. Schools. If you want to look at real reform in schools, are you going to look at someone who's been in the school system for 40 years? Or are you going to look to somebody from the outside who has the ability to learn what is important quickly? And a bachelor's degree in industrial engineering from Stanford University doesn't come easily. So I'm not the smartest person on the planet, but I do have a bit of ability to learn things quickly. Do you go to somebody who's been working within the system, or do you look to somebody who comes from outside the system? Again, there are values to both of those. One person knows how things work, one person's not constrained by how we've always done it. Things like para. Is it going to be more objective to have someone who's currently on para looking at how that works? Or do you want someone who hasn't been tied to para looking at it from an outsider standpoint? Just, again, choices. There's not a right or wrong answer to it. It's just what you think is most important in this race. Now, neither one of us, Jim said it also, neither one of us is looking for a career in politics. I live up here because I choose to live up here. As I said earlier, my business is online and via telephone. I could do that from anywhere. And believe me, it would be a lot easier for me to find clients down in Denver than it is up here in Alma, Colorado. But I want to live here. I choose to live here. I'm not looking to move to Denver. So if you want someone who is looking for a career, that's neither one of us. But if you're looking for it's also kind of a clash of, do we want the existing generation or a new generation? At some other meetings, Jim has mentioned that because he's not looking for a career, he wants to carry over until a new, younger conservative comes up to step up to take the plate. Well, I would volunteer that I would be willing to do that. I am a new younger conservative. Nothing wrong with experience, and I'm not young enough to where I don't have experience also. And I wouldn't claim to be someone like a Sean Mitchell or Kevin Grantham, at least to start. I don't claim to be as eloquent, as effective as they are, but it's a goal that I can work towards. So I would definitely ask for your support. Again, I'm Steve Collins. I am from Park County. I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to represent you all in Denver. I've got materials back on the back table. It has a big red box that has my contact information in there. I want to be accountable. I've got my phone number on there. Like I said, I've got a toll-free number on there if any of you, if it's not a local call to my local number here. I've got my email address on there. I want to hear from people. I had somebody ask me at one of the forums, you know, they saw all of that and they said, you know, you're going to get phone calls. And I said, good, that's what I want. I had somebody come up to me at a forum and say, you know, what are you going to do when you get down to Denver? I told them, that's not important. What do you want me to do when I get down to Denver? I take the title representative very seriously. Representative is supposed to represent what you believe in. And I would like to see that returned to Park County, to HD 60. I want to be a voice for those of us who live in the other part of Colorado, not on the I-70 and I-25 corridor. Again, Steve Collins, House District 60. I would really appreciate your support. If you have any questions afterwards, I'll be around. Please come talk to me because I do want to hear from you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for putting this on. Thank you for your help. And good night to everybody, I guess.
Remember, if you didn't get enough tonight, we're in Hartselle next Thursday and Fair Play the Thursday after that. Thank you all for coming out. I think it was a lot of fun. Thank you.